Thank you, Chastity. Did she say president? Good evening. I am Antonio Parkinson, and I am both honored and thankful to be your state representative. And before I get started, I want to thank Principal Meeks, all of the educators and staff, SES administration, and all of the students and support at Raleigh Egypt High School. I also want to congratulate the class of 2018. And I want you to know that you are a very, very special group of individuals. I love and honor each and every one of you. And lastly, before I get started, I want the class of 2018 to give a warm and heartfelt thank you to the parents, family members who have supported and guided you through this educational experience. Thank you. I want to tell you a quick story, and I won't keep you but a few minutes. Back in 1968 in Oakland, California, a teenage mother was giving birth to a child, and this child never ever got a chance to meet his father because his father was married to another woman. Because he would see his older brother get to travel to go see his father or receive boxes of clothes and toys on Christmases and birthdays, the second child would always ask his mother, "Mom, where is my father? Where are my clothes and toys?" The only response that he would get from that mother was, "Your father was a good man, and he took care of you and your brother." This went on for years. But not knowing who he was and what he was made of bothered him. This young man, as a small child, was very kind, though. He was giving. If he saw another child that was going without lunch, he would share his lunch with that kid and anything else that he could share with another kid. He was the first male to give flowers to his mother. He pulled them flowers up out of the ground himself in between the cracks of the concrete and the projects that they were living in. He was a good kid. But things in his life began to take a turn. His mother and his stepfather, they divorced. His mother began to turn her attention away from the children and started turning her attention towards men in search of companionship. Some of the men turned out to be abusive and of ill character. And soon after that, the household began to spiral out of control. And with little or no money coming in, they ended up homeless, sleeping on the floor of the beauty salon where his mom worked. During that time, the streets started calling this young man. To the point at the age of 14, on the last day of school in his 10th grade year, he was caught with a loaded gun in the classroom. They kicked him out of school, even though it was the last day of school. They stripped him of all of his grades for the whole year, even though he had good grades. And on that day, the last day of school in his 10th grade year, he was sent to jail at the age of 14. He wanted to cry, but he couldn't force the tears to come out. He was becoming hardened with life, and he was becoming more and more discouraged with life. And to add to that, there were adults around him that were encouraging him to go ahead and drop out. You're not amounting to anything anyway. But he was determined not to. The very next year, at 15 years of age, he moved out on his own. He continued to go to night school and summer school to catch up, only to be kicked out of school 2 more times before he finished. Things were so bad that the last high school that kicked him out, early in his senior year, the principal told the school that he was transferring to, "We don't care what you do with him, just take him." They went on to say, "You can let him finish out the classes that he was taking up here, but make sure he does it down there. And we will mail him his diploma." And that's exactly what they did. So I want you to imagine this. Here was a young man, 17 years of age, kicked out of 3 high schools between the 10th and the 12th grade. He couldn't march across the stage like you guys are doing with the school that he finished at because he really wasn't even enrolled at that school. And he couldn't march with the school that he was enrolled in because they had kicked him out of school. Needless to say, they mailed him that diploma, and he never, ever got a chance to sit where you're sitting. But he was always academically smart. That summer, after attending school, He enlisted in the United States Air Force. He was always a good person at heart. But that instability, the homelessness, and the fact that his life's priorities was that of surviving made him look a little bit different to the eyes of many people. Because of this, many teachers and counselors could not see who he actually was. At that time, they couldn't see his purpose. They didn't know how to dig down deep behind their behavior so they could see who this individual really was. Still trying to catch a break, he enlisted in the Air Force. He got close to his Air Force recruiter. They became good friends. The recruiter guided him through the process. He took the ASVAB test, did all of the paperwork that he needed to enlist in the Air Force, and finally, for the first time in a long time, things were looking up. Finally, he could breathe a sigh of relief. In his excitement, this young man would show up to the recruiter's office almost daily to hang out and assist him wherever he could while waiting for his date to go to boot camp. He was still homeless at the time, but very thankful to an adult male cousin who came through and allowed him to live with him until it was time for him to go to the Air Force. Together they worked out a strategy. That strategy went like this. He would leave for the Air Force, and his adult cousin that was allowing him to live there would then leave and fly to go visit his relatives that he hadn't seen in years. His cousin purchased the tickets and was set up for the vacation to coincide with the young man's departure. It was all set. But one day, after showing up to the Air Force recruiter's office as he normally did, there was a different recruiter in the office. He asked him, "Where is my recruiter?" And to his shock and disbelief, he was informed that his recruiter had been killed in a car accident the night before. His heart sunk to the bottom of his stomach after hearing the news, as he had become quite close to his recruiter. But then after a few minutes, he snapped to and he said, "Wait a minute, what does this mean for me leaving?" And the guy that was standing there said, "Well, obviously this puts everything on hold." This was a problem because he told his cousin and his cousin told him, "Well, I still have to leave because I can't return my tickets and everything was set for my vacation." So once again, he was back on the streets. There was a Marine Corps recruiter, on the other hand, that was listening to the conversation in the recruitment office hallway. And after the Air Force recruiter went back to his office, the Marine Corps recruiter motioned to the young man and said, "Come here." For the young man, there was always the Air Force or the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps recruiter said to him, "I can get you out of here in a week and a half." He said, "You have to transfer your test scores and sign the papers and we'll have you out of here." The young man quickly agreed to that deal out of desperation. But in order for him to go into the Marine Corps, he had to go in with an open contract because it was such a short notice. And I want y'all to remember that later on in just a second. He went in with an open contract because he didn't have time to plan out what his career was going to be in the Marine Corps. He still had the problem though, he was still homeless. So he went to three other relatives. He asked him, he said, "Give me a place to stay. I need a place to stay for a week and a half before I fly out to Marine Corps boot camp." Not only did they tell him no, that he couldn't stay in three of their different houses, but one of them cursed him and said, "You are not going to amount to anything. You are going to end up in jail. You are the worst child that your mother has ever produced." They then put him in a car and drove him to a homeless shelter, pushed him in the door, told the homeless director, "I got a vagabond for you, take him." Closed the door behind him and walked out. He stood there in the door of that homeless shelter for about 2 minutes, thinking about what had just happened and what they had said to him. And he vowed to himself he would never ever see those relatives, again until he was successful. He went back to the cousin's house that was on vacation, literally broke the window, climbed into the window, stayed in his home for a week and a half, and used the church money that his cousin had saved to eat and survive that week. And then he finally left for Marine Corps boot camp. While in boot camp, he excelled and was promoted meritoriously to private first class. He was also offered OCS, Officer Candidate School, based on the scores on his ASVAB. On close to the last day of boot camp, they began to receive their orders and job classifications. Now, y'all remember that open contract that I had mentioned earlier, right? Out of this, This young man was sent to air traffic control school and firefighting school for free on the Marine Corps dime. Needless to say, he was on his way to Memphis, Tennessee, to the base in Millington. He went on to air traffic control school and firefighting school in Millington. He did 4 years in the Marine Corps, got out. He then went on to serve 25 years on the Shelby County Fire Department as a lieutenant, and now he is standing before you as State Representative. Don't tell me what God can't do. It is the same kid who never got to march across the stage with his classmates in his graduation ceremony, but is now speaking at graduations and influencing millions of lives across the state of Tennessee. Don't tell me what God can't do. It is the same kid whose aunts pushed him into the homeless shelter and turned their backs on him that now owns not one, not two, not three homes in Raleigh and an apartment in downtown Nashville. Don't tell me what God can't do. It is this same kid who never got a chance to see, hear, feel, or be held by his father that is mentoring hundreds of kids and being an active and hands-on father to his own children. Don't tell me what God can't do. Now, to the class of 2018, understand this. I could have chose to be bitter at all of the people that let me down at some point during my time in life. Let's walk through it real quick. My mother, who I love and I know loves me, but at the time she was choosing men over her children. My father, because he was married and never came for me, never showed up, never supported me. My aunts, who wouldn't give me a place to stay when I needed them most. My other aunt, who cursed me and said I would never amount to anything. What about those boys that were bullying me that led me to make the bad choice of bringing a gun to school? Then there's the last principal who kicked me out of school, Principal Meeks, and told the other school, we don't care what you do with them. You see, I want you to understand this class of 2018. There is purpose in everything. All of these people, and understand this, all of these people, they had roles to play into my purpose. Watch this and follow me. It was through their human eyes. They could only see where I was at the time. They could not see where God was taking me, just like where he's taking you. They had no idea why they were acting in the manner that they were acting towards me. Had they known who I was to become, they would have acted differently. And had that happened, I would have probably been someone else. So in reality, I needed them to act and do exactly as they did at the time that they did. There is purpose in everything. Every single event that has taken place in your life, and watch this, even way back before you were born on this earth, had purpose. That student who was mean to you because your clothes wasn't name brand, you need to tell them, thank you, you have served your purpose. That family member who told you you wasn't going to be anything when you grow up, tell them, thank you, you have served your purpose. That boy who wouldn't date you because he didn't think you were popular enough, cute enough, or willing to have sex with him, tell him, thank you, you have served your purpose. That pretty girl who wouldn't date you because you made good grades, she thought you were a nerd and you wasn't a gang member, tell her, thank you, I will be your boss in 3 years. I will close with this. Those events shape the purpose of your life and your God-given, unique reason for being here on this earth. You see, there's a reason for your existence. You are not here simply to be shot up in the streets of Memphis. You are not here to be simply impregnated and left alone to raise your child. You and your life and its purpose is for a specific reason in this earth, and it is to be used to bless other people. Now, it is up to you to find that reason for your existence and to operate in your unique and specific purpose. In closing, class of 2018, I speak God's blessings, healing, prosperity, and life over each and every one of you. I am your state representative. Thank you, thank you, and thank you.